What is up, my Yugi bros? Today we have another top 10 video for you today. This time taking a look at the anime, since this is the Speed Duel Battle City box. Obviously there's going to be a lot more focus on main characters, cards such as Yugi, Kaiba, and Merrick. So today I wanted to go over my top 10 cards that I think will be in here for Yugi support. And we're going to kick it off with the Magnet Warriors all in one slot, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, the Magnet Warrior. Obviously, these are Yugi's iconic Magnet Warriors. They all combine into a card called Valkyrion, the Magna Warrior. And Valkyrion says it cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing one Alpha, the Magnet Warrior, Beta, the Magnet Warrior, and Gamma, the Magnet Warrior from your hand or your side of the field. Its other effect is you can tribute this card, then target an Alpha, Beta, and Gamma in your graveyard and special summon them. So, conveniently we have 3 zones in Speed Duels, so we can actually make this the old-fashioned way. Putting 3 of them on the field, tributing all 3 for this Valkyrion from the hand, and then vice versa. We could then tribute this if we need 3 monsters for Alpha, Beta, and Gamma out of the grave. Another way to summon a God card, which I'm sure they'll throw in, but of course, more often than not, it has just been 3 of Yugi's iconic cards throughout the Battle City arc. Another triumph I want to talk about is Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, Baphomet, and the fusion of both of these monsters being Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast. This is another iconic Yugi card, was played a lot in the Battle City arc as well. Gazelle is a normal monster, 1500 attack, that would easily be thrown into Speed Duels here. Baphomet is a 5-star, 1 tribute, 14/18 Dark Fiend monster that says if it's normal or special summoned, you can add Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts from your deck to your hand. So it kind of just gets you your fusion piece, and then once you have a way to fusion summon this, you can then summon Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, level 6 Wind Beast fusion effect, 21/18. Says this is always treated as a Phantom Beast card. If this card, when this card is destroyed, you can target one Baphomet and Gazelle in your graveyard and special summon them. So it doesn't really do too much on its own. It's not like it's going to be competitive in Speed Duels at all, unless they give it a skill or something like that. But it is another iconic Yugi card. This list is less competitive cards and more iconic Yugi cards that have been seen throughout the show that would be definitely implemented into Speed Duels thus far. Another iconic Yugi card that definitely could come over to Speed Duels is Big Shield GARDNA. This is a level 4 Earth Warrior effect with 100 attack and 2600 defense. That's really big for a 4 or lower level monster. Usually you see something like that on a 1 or 2 tribute monster. And it also has this bonus effect of when a spell card is activated that targets this face down card and no other cards, which is crazy because most effects on monsters don't trigger if they're face down, but that's really cool that this does. Quick effect, you can change this card to face up defense position, and if you do, negate the activation. So that's really cool. I'm not really sure what they're targeting with it face down, unless something like Shield Crush or whatever comes out, but in addition to that, it also has another effect saying if it is attacked, change it to attack position at the end of the damage step. This is the one downside to Big Shield GARDNA, but this is the price you pay for having a 2600 defensive monster. In 4000 Yu-Gi-Oh! This might actually be formidable, considering the fact that you could just sit on this, and if they summon one monster and swing into it, they're going to take the difference, unless it's something like a swordswoman or something, and it just starts giving you momentum. It does a little extra damage right off the bat, and then the following turn you could tribute this for something like a Jinzo or a Summon Skull if we ever get that into Speed Duels. So it could be relevant for sure, and I would love to see it come over here as well. And piggybacking off of the monster I just said, Summon Skull is the next one I would love to see come over to Speed Duels. It actually baffles me to this point that we haven't had this yet in Speed, and I understand 1 tribute for a 2500 beat stick sounds like a lot, but just picture this. We're getting Jinzo before Summon Skull, or at least at the very least, we got a pre-release of Jinzo before Summon Skull. Summon Skull could be in this box. I really don't see why it won't be in this box, but because Jinzo exists, we need something that can run it over, and while we do have Dark Ruler Hades with 2450 attack as a 1 tribute, Summon Skull is one of Yugi's most iconic monsters of all time. It would baffle me if this wouldn't be in here, And think of the synergies we'd get with this card. We'd then be able to hopefully get something like Black Skull Dragon, which, you know, with the new name change, that'd be great. We'd finally also be able to fuse it with Red Eyes Black Dragon, which I know we've been wanting to do in Speed Duels since the very beginning. We have Red Eyes Spirit. Let's get this boy in here. We'd be able to do more iconic combos, maybe even make you the Magical Mist. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but they could throw that in here if they throw in Summon Skull as well. I just think that this card definitely deserves to see Speed Duels, and while 25 again for one tribute has been a lot thus far, it's only 100 stronger than Jinzo, it's only 100 stronger than Luster Dragon, Dark Triceratops, but even though 25 is like the cusp, and I know we're not going to get like 2601 tributes like Frostosaurus for a long time, if you're going to throw Jinzo into this thing, I think you definitely deserve to throw Summon Skull in as like a hard one tribute counter to just getting Jinzo off the board. Remember, you have to still swing over Jinzo, and it still has to go through. So I don't think 2501 tribute on Summon Skull is too overpowered to come over to Speed Duels. The next one I have on this list is a bit of a fun one, and that is the quick play spell known as Multiply, which says tribute 1 face-up Karibo, special summon as many Karibo tokens, fiend type, dark level 1, attack 300, defense 200 as possible in defense position. These tokens cannot be tributed for a tribute summon. You know, I don't know how competitive this would be, but in terms of an iconic Yugi card, there are a few things more iconic than Karibo and Dark Magician, and Multiply is definitely no stretch away from that. This card is really, really fun. I mean, let's be fair. If you have a face-up Karibo, I don't know what you're playing, unless you're just using Karibo as a hand trap, but if you put it on the field and you pass, there's no way you don't have some kind of ridiculous trick up your sleeve, and if you have Multiply down, like, this would just be like the cusp of the most ridiculous tricks to have up your sleeve. It's not insane, it doesn't do anything crazy, it's not like you swap control of these things. It just gives you a bunch of Karibo tokens in defense mode, basically. It's almost like Scapegoat. We don't have Scapegoat. We can't actually get Scapegoat in Speed Duels because we don't have 4 zones available. And Stray Lambs isn't a quick play, so this is something like a scapegoat of sorts, so to speak, that can get you a field full of tokens and basically wall your opponent's attacks for a turn. They can't be used for tribute summon, but that doesn't mean you can't use them in other ways. Granted, they're probably just going to sit on the field as long as possible, but you know, it's a cute little Yugi card, and it's definitely something I would love to see come over to Speed for sure. The next monster is a monster a lot of people forget was in the Battle City arc, and that is Electromagnetic Turtle, because the TCG release of this was so far down the line that people thought it was like a new card at that point. For the OG fans, they knew it was a Yugi card, but they forgot where exactly it showed up in the anime. And this was Battle City. This is a level 4 light machine effect, 0 attack, 1800 defense that says during your opponent's battle phase quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, end the battle phase. You can only use the effect of Electromagnetic Turtle once per duel. So right there, it's already a once per duel, so you don't need to play more than one of these, and it ends the battle phase. So it's kind of similar to like a Battle Fader, but it activates like a GARDNA. You just straight end the battle phase. I think this is fine as a one-of. I don't see this being a problem at all. I actually like this as a little battle trick, and it teaches older players that aren't really familiar with graveyard effects the ability to use something in the graveyard when it's already there. So I like this card a lot. I think this card could be really good. It is a machine. You could play it in a machine deck, but you could just put this, I think people would just play this in everything, honestly, for right now. Just walling for a turn, that's really, really strong. Especially if your opponent like drops a Jinzo and you have no out to their Jinzo in that turn because all your back row was traps. If you have Turtle in your graveyard and they try to swing, you could just banish this, end the battle phase, and then you have a turn to essentially recover without losing anything. And that's what I think really makes this card powerful. But like I said, it's a once per duel. It's a one-off. So as a one-off, I don't see it being insane at all. It's just a staple that I think a lot of people would play, and I would love to see this come over to Speed Duels. The next interesting card I have on my list is the trap known as Magical Hats. This normal trap says during your opponent's battle phase, choose 2 Speller Trap cards from your deck and 1 monster in your main monster zone. Special summon them as normal monsters, attack and event 0 in face down defense position. Set the chosen monster if it is face up and shuffle them onto the field. The 2 chosen cards from your deck are destroyed at the end of the battle phase and cannot remain on the field except during this battle phase. So this is a cool, neat little battle trick that obviously Yugi has used time and time again. This card takes any 2 spell and traps from your deck and sets them on the field, and takes a monster in your main monster zone. If it's already set, you can go ahead and do the shuffle effect. If it's not set, you flip it face down, essentially setting it, and shuffle these cards, and then have your opponent choose their attacks. This allows essentially a 1 monster field to become a 3 attack warp, depending if your opponent hits the 2 spell and trap cards first, and a 2 attack if they hit one of the spell and traps and then your monster. Either way though, you keep that 3rd spell or trap there until the end of the battle phase, so it still acts as another wall, similar to how we just said multiply acts as walls, except for this card would be a bit more competitive, I feel, and that is because you could play it in anything. In addition, if the monster never gets attacked, if let's say they attack your 1 or 2 other duds, Magical Hats only destroys the 2 duds at the end of the battle phase, so you get to keep your monster for another round, which I think is really, really cool. And you're setting 2 spell or trap cards from your deck. Now this is an interesting effect because any spell or trap card that gains an effect if it's sent to the graveyard could get an effect here as well. So let's take Wild Tornado for example. This card says, if this set card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target one face-up card on the field, destroy that target. So if it's destroyed while set through Magical Hat's effect, keep in mind if it's attacked, it's flipped face-up, so that doesn't count. Or Magical Hat's effect that just destroys the 2 duds that it plays from the deck at the end of the battle phase, then your Tornado can trigger and actually destroy a face-up card on the field. So you can make Magical Hats an actual lethal weapon if you pair it by playing Wild Tornado in your deck. There are other combinations of cards that have been abused over the years with Magical Hats, but Tornado is one solid example that Speed Duels already has at its disposal that could make this card an actual lethal weapon rather than just something to block an opponent's attack. I think this could get overpowered over time depending on what else comes out, but right now I think it's perfectly balanced. It's still a trap. You still also would have to play Wild Tornado to make that combo busted. And Wild Tornado has seen less and less play because it only destroys face-up cards in the spell and trap zone. If, for example, your opponent has a ZOMA out and that trap monster is in the monster zone, Wild Tornado actually can't target to destroy it. So like I said, you're kind of hindering yourself at the expense of making Magical Hats stronger. But either way, I think that's a really cool combo that Speed Duels could have if we got Magical Hats going forward. Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth and Blue Eyes decks tremble at the mighty might of Obnoxious Celtic Guard. This is the next one on my list, and I think this card would be so fun to have because it's a level 4 Earth Warrior effect monster, 1400 attack, 1200 defense, that says cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster that has 1900 or more attack. Oh, how this would be so fun if you just sat on this in defense mode. More so against something like a Blue Eyes deck than a Moth deck, because obviously Moth has the Koichi and a Nidoria. Nidoria to a lesser extent. The Koichi could just run this over if this thing was in defense mode. And Zoma the Spirit is 1800 unfortunately, so that can also run over this card. But this was an iconic Yugi card, so I definitely expect this to be in this box. But Obnoxious Celtic Guard is quite obnoxious in the sense that it just is a bit ridiculous to deal with if you have a strong monster on the field. Let's take Blue Eyes for example, and I know I use Blue Eyes a lot even though the deck hasn't been relevant since the beginning. If you stick Lord of D, activate Flute, and drop 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons on the field, and you're staring down this face-down monster in defense position, Lord of D can't kill this because it has 1200 defense, so it just bounces off of it, and Blue Eyes swinging over it can't kill it because it has 1900 or more attack. Against something like Blue Eyes, you just sit on Obnoxious Celtic Guard as long as possible until you draw the right answer to deal with the Blue Eyes board. I don't see a problem with this at all being in Speed Duels. I think this actually gets stronger if you pair Command Knight with this, because then it goes to 1800 attack, and 1900 or more can't kill it by battle. So at worst, your opponent is crashing an 1800 monster into this monster, assuming they don't have something with 1850 attack, to kill this. So you're trading 1 for 1 at that point. I like this card. I think this would be really, really lulzy. I also think it would be really, really fun to have, and it would boost a lot of new combos. I mean, putting this in a generic deck to just kind of wall for a while, depending on what your opponent is playing, like I could see this be a side deck option in specific decks just to wall your opponent. And I don't think that's a problem. I think this is perfectly balanced and fine. I don't think it's overpowered. Obviously, just drop something 1800 or less to kill it, or I guess I should say 1850 or less and kill it, and then there's no problem. But it can get real obnoxious. And isn't that the whole meme of this card? Let's talk about a spell that actually could be relevant, that being Double Spell, the normal spell card that says discard one spell card, then target one spell card in your opponent's graveyard, place that target in the appropriate zone on your side of the field, and at this card's effect resolution, follow its card text as if you had used it yourself. Basically what this is saying is you discard a spell card, target a spell in your opponent's graveyard, and essentially use it for yourself. In mirror matches, this can get disgusting, but we don't have insane mirror matches where I think this would be OP. I mean, the best deck in the game currently, I think, plays like 2 to 3 spells max, and that's Allure of Darkness and Offerings to the Doomed if they side it in. So, I mean, you just play that card yourself. Discarding a spell card in current speed duels doesn't really warrant wanting to then use a spell card from your opponent's graveyard, but if we eventually get cards like Monster Reborn or some type of card like that, then I could see this card being relevant, where you pitch a spell that doesn't really net you so much advantage for a card from your opponent's grave that would net you a ton of advantage. This is very situational, and it's not something that sees an overabundance of play, but it was a classic card from Yugi. It does have 2 magicians on it, so of course it's related to like a Dark Magician type spell looking card of sorts, and I think this card might be relevant over time, but I don't see a reason it can't come over here now. Like I said, this list is full of iconic Yugi cards in some competitive natures or what have you, so Double Spell definitely doesn't fall flat on its face, but I do think it's a little bit of a weaker option as of right now, but it could definitely be a stronger option going forward. And the last card I have on my list is an old fan favorite in the form of Dark Sage. This card hasn't had a reprint in quite some time. It's a level 9 Dark Spellcaster effect with 2800 attack and 3200 defense. That's pretty big. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must first be special summoned from your hand or deck by tributing Dark Magician immediately after applying the effect of Time Wizard in which you called the coin toss right. That's so specific. When special summoned this way, add 1 spell card from your deck to your hand. So like I said before with fusing Summon Skull and Red Eyes to make Black Skull Dragon, let's give Joey and Yugi another combo, another iconic combo that they've had from the show, and that is controlling a Dark Magician and tributing it after you've applied Time Wizard's effect successfully. This is very situational, but it's kind of a callback to It's My Lucky Day, the Joey skill that allows you once per duel to determine a coin toss or a dice roll for yourself, and this could get really, really good with this. Essentially, from the hand or deck too, mind you, so you don't even have to have Dark Sage in your hand, which I think is insane. You could summon this from the deck after resolving this correctly. If you have a Dark Magician and a Time Wizard, and you call the effect of Time Wizard, and then you apply the skill so that your call is correct, then you can summon Dark Sage from your deck by tributing Dark Magician, drop this bad boy on the field 2832, and adds any spell from your deck to your hand. That can get real crazy depending on the spell you add, but also this is just a really good effect. Like, the thing is, Time Wizard definitely wiped your opponent's board of monsters, and then you get Dark Sage in any spell card, so you could get something that like would destroy spell or traps on the field, and then essentially just push in for what would be game, assuming your opponent doesn't have either a graveyard effect or a battle effect in the hand to stop you. Dark Sage could be a really fast OTK type thing in speed duels. 4000 Yu-Gi-Oh! Has never seen the likes of Dark Sage, and granted, regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Barely ever saw Dark Sage. Outside of just iconic duels you'd have with your friends, this card was never competitive, but it could see play depending on if you play a deck with It's My Lucky Day that allows you to kind of turbo this bad boy out as fast as possible and give you some real firepower. But adding any spell from your deck to your hand is insane to me. But like, there are so few cards, it's mostly older cards that deal with like being able to trigger themselves from the deck, which is so ridiculous in my head. Like, I forget cards like that exist. Because you don't have direct access to it doesn't usually mean its effect should be able to activate, but yet here we are. Dark Sage in its card text says, from your hand or deck, if you tribute a Dark Magician immediately after Time Wizard's effect resolves when you call the coin toss correctly, you can summon this straight to the field. So this could be really, really good. I think I could be blowing it out of proportion a bit, but I'd love to see this card come to speed duels, and it is an iconic Yugi/Joey card that was seen during the Battle City arc as well, that definitely deserves its place in the speed duel Battle City box. But guys, those are just my opinions. That's my top 10. I don't have an honorable mention for you guys on the Yugi list list today. I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to kind of keep honorable mentions to just specifically competitive cards that I either haven't talked about yet in other top 10s or stuff that, you know, just doesn't really fit the more iconic cards from these specific character decks. So guys, like, comment, and subscribe as always. Tell me in the comments below what you think about this list or if I missed anything iconic. And until the next video, I'll see you guys next time.